Welcome back to the show. We got another great one lined up. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show. Open your new account, your free new account at Caleb and Brown. Why would I do that? Because you want to start getting the best night's sleep of your life in crypto. This is why. You get free institutional grade custody, no hidden fees, no hidden spreads, one flat fee. You know exactly what you're getting. You get institutional grade custody for free. You get human customer service and obviously multiple layers of security that come with this platform. And the customer service, white glove service. This is what you're going to get, and you can't get it anywhere else. And I tell you, in a time where we know a bull run is coming, we're waiting for legislation, exchanges freeze up, you can't get your market orders in. That won't happen to you here. And you want to find out, start getting the best night's sleep of your life, go to XRP Wealth 589.com. XRPwealth589.com and sign up for your free account today. So many others are jumping in, and I'm getting incredible communications from people that are happy. They love the fact that they can speak to someone. It's nothing like you've ever experienced. I can tell you that. Check it out for yourself. Look here, $3.42 trillion market cap for crypto. The market's off by 2.4. Bitcoin 104,900 plus. Ethereum 2,600 plus. XRP $2.24. We're up 1% on the 24 and still off 3.1 on the 7-day. Range of price between 221 and 228. We'll keep an eye on it. Let's start right here and give a big congratulations to MoonPay and a big thank you to MoonPay for being a big sponsor at this year's XRP Las Vegas. And they have already locked in 2026, ladies and gentlemen, and they'll be coming in an even bigger way next year. And they've just secured a BIT license and money transmitter license from the New York State Department of Financial Services. Hello. Who likes seeing that? I know I do. And then Uphold breaks some news on stage at XRP Las Vegas. They're getting ready to bring yield back, and they're going to do it with flair.
News about what's coming.
Yeah, we're really excited about this. This is the #1 question I get all the time, quite rightly, and we've been looking at it for a couple of years. And it's a challenge because XRP is not a proof-of-stake network. You can't earn a yield natively on the chain. And we've been looking for all kinds of solutions, and we think it's so gratifying, you know, over the past year, just how things have changed, just how the whole ecosystem has matured, the liquidity has got deeper on a lot of the chains, and it makes new possibilities that we didn't have before, you know, something we can execute on. So in the second half of this year, we're going to partner with Flair.
Oh, there you go.
And we are going to
He was geek.
for you to earn a yield through the Flair network. I mean, as a lot of you know, what Flair does is basically bring smart contract functionality and DeFi to XRP.
There you have
XRP.
it. And shout out to this gentleman, Ric Flair here. Give him a follow. And thanks for sharing that information from XRP Las Vegas. Super exciting. Yield coming back and Flair's involved. And then there's this. Poly market data is showing the odds for an XRP ETF approval in 2025 have surged to a record high of 93%. How about that? Remember, there's like 18 to 20 ETFs, spot ETFs waiting for approval. That is going to put obvious upward pressure on the market for XRP. Now let's listen to this for Bitcoin ETFs seeing big outflows.
All the offerings out there with regard to gaining exposure for specific cryptocurrencies, especially Bitcoin. You manage one of the bigger ones, one of the bigger funds out there. Other providers also have, you know, Bitcoin-related ETFs. Just how important is this model becoming for advisors to maybe allocate towards cryptocurrencies?
Well, we're seeing a lot of advisors have started that educational journey around what is Bitcoin and what is the role that it could play in portfolios. And I think what's really spurred this along is two things. One is their clients are asking them about Bitcoin, particularly millennial clients who have been digital asset native. And then secondly, in this environment where you have more global uncertainty, there's more interest in assets that behave differently from traditional assets like gold and like Bitcoin that are a bit more of diversifiers in a portfolio.
All right. So there are all the offerings
There
out
you
there with
have it
regard to
right
gaining
there.
exposure.
Now let's keep it going because I want you to see this. Remember, Chinese firm Weebus files with the U.S. SEC to raise $300 million for XRP Treasury Plan and Ripple Payments integration. This is what Brad was talking about on stage. He was talking about corporate treasuries. This is going to happen. We're going to see that model of MicroStrategy branching out to many, many other assets, including XRP. Let's look at this. Monica Long puts this out today. Big milestone. RealUSD is now recognized under Dubai's world-class DFSA regime, meaning it can be fully integrated into Ripple payments and utilize other DFSA licensed firms. Now this, and when we say others, boy, I mean, the number is crazy. Like, I mean, I think it was 7,000 firms. 7,000 firms are going to have access to RealUSD in Dubai. Now, where are we at here? Listen to this about the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve from Senator Lummis.
I want to just jump in and mention that last week we heard from Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan Chase. He said that instead of Bitcoin, the U.S. should stockpile rare earths, guns, bullets, drones, planes, etc. What do you say to critics like Jamie Dimon who say this is a waste of resources?
Yeah, I would say that even the United States military disagrees with him, that there are generals, especially in Southeast Asia, who believe it's important to have strategic Bitcoin stockpile because we're doing an economic war with China and we have to prepare for a guns and bullets war. But we need both. And so all we need to do is look to the leadership of the current U.S. military to find support for a strategic Bitcoin reserve.
I want to just jump in.
There you have it right there. So now there's a lot happening. That's the point of me showing you these clips from ETF approvals on the cusp, whether we're seeing the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve. We know that there's states currently passing and moving forward legislation to have their own reserve for Bitcoin and crypto. We know that 1 million seconds ago was May 23rd. 1 billion seconds ago was 1993. 1 trillion seconds ago was 30,000 BC. Okay? Now, I can't play this because it's a 60-minute clip because I don't want to get a copyright strike, but the reality is that when you're looking at this...
The U.S. is on an
Let me say the U.S. is on an unsustainable path, the federal government, unsustainable fiscal path, and that just means that the debt is growing faster than the economy. And listen, that's where you come into understanding not only do they have to do the DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency, scan for waste, abuse, and fraud, right? They've got to have a ability to move to a new system that is going to increase the velocity of money. That is blockchain distributed ledger technology. That is the new on-chain economy. And that is going to require tokenization of all the world's traditional products, including dollars. And that takes us to stable coins, right? Remember when the CEO of Stripe said this? Remember this? Hold on now.
Freedom. We must allow for more innovation in the digital payments world, not constructing growth with a central bank for digital currency. So, Mr. Collison, does Stripe have any examples of customers using Stripe's stablecoin orchestration platform to break free from authoritarian governments or deflationary national currencies?
Thanks for the question. We see many examples of this. I think of the comparison to the petrodollar system, where starting back in the 70s, the series of agreements with Gulf states created an enormous new source of secular demand for dollars. We're seeing the same thing happening today in emerging markets, where people are taking enthusiastic advantage of this new liberty and this new capability where they can hold dollars and they can, again, get direct access to the world's preeminent reserve currency. I think this is a really big deal for global liberty and for global prosperity.
No question. It's really well said by him. There's no question about it. I'm super excited. I am very, very super excited about what's coming because I do believe it all ties into getting us off the petrodollar. U.S. Representative French Hill gives game on stablecoin operations to legally exist in the U.S. Take a listen to this.
Passed by both houses. One is an extraterritoriality. This is how do people who operate a stable coin, a dollar-backed stable coin, offer that or trade it inside the U.S. So to get the benefits of being in the United States, you need to be what? Like doing business in the United States, being regulated in the United States. And this is not uncommon for 250 years since we're celebrating our semi-sesquicentennial, or however one pronounces the incredible A250 word. You are having a reciprocity issue there that I think is important. We have that in securities. We have that in banking. If you're an international bank, you want to come into the United States, you meet certain requirements to do that. If you're an international bank and you want to lend in the U.S., you have certain, reciprocity type modest oversight. Well, the same should be true in digital. So we're not creating a new regime. So you can either be registered in the U.S. and be a U.S. company under the stablecoin law and you are fully compliant, or you are in a jurisdiction recognized by the U.S. to have a substantially similar regime and enforcement.
There you have it. Now, here's the deal. We're also hearing that we are very close to getting that vote on the Genius Act now. They're saying within the next 10 days, 2 weeks. Take a listen.
The so-called Genius Act that's making its way through the Senate right now. What are the remaining hurdles for the bill, and what do you expect the timeline to look like?
We will start voting on the Genius Act, the stablecoin bill, this week. I don't think we're going to complete it this week. We'll probably have to go into next week because a number of amendments will be filed. But we have worked long and hard to bring Democrats to the place where they can vote for cloture. I think we're there.
The so-called Genius Act.
There you go. So we're there. We're inside 2-week window. And what did Donald Trump Jr. tell us about the U.S. dollar?
But you've heard from people in the crypto industry, I imagine some of your friends who have said that some of these coins and what's happening may undermine a little bit of what's happening because people are questioning it. Right?
I have not heard that from anyone, actually. What I hear from those people is like, thank you for doing this. You're giving us the legitimacy that we fought for so long. And this isn't just a conservative issue, Joe. I mean, these are highly libertarian people. This is actually one of those 50 million holders of, some sort of crypto, whether it's Bitcoin, stables, ETH, Sol, whatever it may be. There's 50 million in America, and they're not all right-wing. These are people who just believe in freedom. They've seen what's happening, and they're looking for a corollary and a response.
I got one more for you, which goes to, do you believe, if you believe in the U.S. dollar, which I think we all want to believe in, do we think that crypto, Bitcoin in particular, but crypto writ large, can ultimately undermine it?
Actually, I think the opposite. When you look at what's going on with so many of the stable coins, and as you create utility and those things happen, what we're doing with USD1, it's literally one-to-one backed with the U.S. Treasuries. If you look at some of these big, stable coins, they're literally some of the biggest buyers of U.S. Treasuries in the world, replacing a lot of the countries that would have been traditionally doing that. So if we want to keep borrowing and spending the way we do for some of these programs, I don't necessarily agree with all of that either. I think these stable coins are actually going to be the savior of dollar hegemony in the world, not a detractor from it. I think that goes without question. If you look at even companies like Tether, I think they're the 4th largest holder of U.S. Treasuries in the world. What we're going to do with USD1, I mean, this is billions and billions of dollars of treasuries that other countries who have not necessarily been good actors or who have taken advantage of those things over the years have said they're going to back away from to try to create their own kind of currency to eliminate sort of, the petrodollar, whatever it may be. I think stablecoins could be the savior of U.S. currency.
Whoa, the petrodollar, right? Yeah, just like I discussed here, and I don't need to play it again, XRP was designed to underpin the U.S. dollar to ensure dominance with the world reserve currency for the next 150 years. And Greg Kidd agrees.
Really stabilize it. If you could underpin the dollar with all of those things, instead of just an agreement to print more or just a petrodollar agreement, then you really would have the confidence of a dollar for the next 150 years. What say you?
I agree.
Oh, that wasn't very tough.
There you go.
Well, but I mean, you really said it well. To me, it's just a risk to not take that risk. And sometimes the biggest risk you take is not taking a risk at all. I said it in my election.
That's absolutely right. And look, and what do we know? We know that they're planning to do a digital asset stockpile. And you know why that's important? Because we already stockpile oil. And why do we do that? So we can control the price of oil and gas. Don't believe me? Biden plans to tap oil reserves to control gas prices.
Biden has announced the release of 1 million barrels of oil a day from the nation's Strategic Petroleum Reserve, the largest release from the National Reserve in its history. The move is the latest effort by the administration to lower gas prices.
There we go. So that is why they have oil reserves, so they can do those things, right? And then we have Brad asked about the reserve when it first got talked about.
Why do you think XRP wasn't specifically named in the executive order for the digital asset stockpile?
Well, so XRP was named by the president on Truth Social. He posted something saying that there should be other tokens, that there's going to be a Bitcoin strategic reserve and then a crypto stockpile that would include things like XRP.
Days later, the executive order didn't include it. Why was that?
I don't know what specifically was in the executive order. My understanding is there's going to be a Bitcoin strategic reserve. There'll be a crypto stockpile representing other cryptos. And I would expect that will include XRP. Look, at the end of the day, I think the stark contrast is in the Biden administration, we couldn't get a meeting with people at the White House. Now we're welcomed into the White House. And that's just a massive change. I think we want this industry to thrive in the United States. We don't want to push it offshore where you have fewer regulations.
I think the reason I keep pushing you, too, is because I think now it's widely accepted that this is a pro-crypto administration. But the details, that is what's causing an overhang, the uncertainty of the details.
Well, it is. And she's trolling him a bit in that interview, and that's okay because we know what the answer will be. So here's the real details. Oil is controlled by buying and selling the oil and based off of production as well, right? And I just proved to you that they can control the price of oil and gas through the reserves, right? Now, explain in a short paragraph how the U.S. Treasury could use digital asset stockpile like oil to control digital asset price and acquire digital assets through the digital asset bond issuance. Remember, they're not allowed, the U.S. government and Treasury is not allowed to take from the U.S. taxpayer. So how do you acquire the hard assets without costing the taxpayer money? I believe this is where you do a U.S. digital asset bond issuance. And issuing this bond issuance allows the people to take a position in it, gives the money to the government to acquire the asset in the stockpile, which also is designed like the XRP escrow, which allows for the acquisition of the asset, the buying of the asset, the gathering of the asset, and the ability to sell the asset. And being able to do this is what I call like a monetary policy. Okay, it's being able to control the price without stopping or stifling the open free market. That's what's important here. The U.S. Treasury could create a digital asset stockpile similar to a strategic oil reserve to influence digital asset prices by buying or selling assets like Bitcoin to stabilize or manipulate market dynamics. To acquire these assets, the Treasury could issue digital asset bonds, which are the debt instruments backed by the government's credit. Specifically designed to raise funds for purchasing digital assets, by issuing these bonds, the Treasury could collect capital from investors, use the proceeds to buy digital assets during market dips, and hold or sell them strategically to control price volatility or achieve economic objectives, while the bonds are repaid over time with interest, allowing the U.S. government to acquire all of the remaining XRP. Feel me? Not financial advice from me or anyone else. I'm really excited to see this all come together. I hope you are too. I'll catch you on the next one.